Well, and purpose, I think, is such a driver, and it's a huge driver for me. And I think getting uncomfortable, doing hard things, doing things that are different, putting yourself out there. I mean, these are all things I think that make us who we are.
What would you do with your time if you co-founded an 8-figure insurance agency and was a successful commercial property insurance broker? Probably like the rest of us, enjoying life to the fullest with long vacations, sipping mint juleps in our pool. Well, maybe not all of us, and certainly not Samantha Tradelius, who in her own right is a huge success, and yet her greatest mission and passion in life is to support and uplift women with her Sparkle Foundation and its resource arm, Sparkle Biz. Samantha is all about providing financial aid for enrichment programs, microloans for female-owned small businesses, and access to a large connected network, and celebrating women and making a difference every day is living her life on purpose and fulfillment. Wouldn't we all like to create change in our lives? These compelling and extraordinary conversations can help you make better life choices. I'm Terry Yoffe, Executive Career and Business Coach and founder of Try Coaching. Welcome, Samantha Tradelius. How are you today?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
When we first started talking, I said, this is somebody I really want to have on the podcast, have a conversation with. So much that you have done and in creating change, as I say, in your corner of the world, right? We're not creating change all over the world. I wish we could, but one person at a time is my philosophy. So, Samantha, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Well, it's always so interesting when you talk about yourself, right? Where you come from and how you become the woman that you are, because it's never a straight line.
Exactly.
I've spent 25 years in the insurance industry. So as a professional woman, that's the path I went down, and then, decided that wasn't enough, wanted to do a little bit more to make the world a better place. So at the ripe age of 23, I started doing some research on charities and just what was going on out there in the world, and wasn't really finding anything that was suiting my fancy. And so, as most of us gals, when we don't find what we want, we create our own path. So I started, trying to find a way to do good in the world. And what I ended up doing was hooking up with the United States Post Office, and they had a Dear Santa program. And that was where children would write letters to Santa Claus, and you could then go in and find these families that needed assistance. So the first year I chose 2 families, and the program just kind of grew and grew and grew. And, 13 or so years later, we were gifting 17 families out of my home, raising, upwards of $35,000, just a bunch of women here in the community that wanted to do good. And so the program, became so much bigger than me and so much more than me. And, as a result, Sparkle Foundation was born. In 2016 was when I got my official papers, but 2015 was when I began the process. And the focus is single moms. And where that comes from, as you and I discussed, with my grandmother was a single mom in the 50s. And so when it was time to really dive into the group or the sector, it was such a subconscious thing when I started finding the families. I wasn't even really, saying, oh, I want to help this group. But the stories I would read and gravitate towards were those that the father was absent. And it wasn't till years later I really realized, because that was the stories I would hear about how my father and my aunt, my uncle were brought up. There was no grandfather. My grandma did everything in the 50s. And so I just found it to be such an underserved community, and that became our North Star. And here we are 7 years later as a nonprofit, a legit, 501c3. And then this will actually be my 20th year of gifting Christmas, which is a big landmark year for me.
Wow, what a beginning of a story. And a lot of people that have reached your status with the insurance and then your own brokerage, they would have sat back, and I said this when I introduced you, had long vacations, sipped mint juleps, but instead you looked beyond that and looked to see where you could really make a difference. And by certainly working with and helping women, which is where you're at, tell us a little bit about the Sparkle Foundation and then Sparkle Biz.
Yeah. So Sparkle, as I stated, kind of started off with this holiday gift drive, and that was our mainstay. Once we, became a 501c3 non-profit organization, we could spread out a little bit more and do a little bit more, but keeping our mission and our focus really simple: single moms. So what we started doing, the second arm of our programs, were enrichment scholarships. So imagine you've got a single mom who's able to pay rent, put food on the table, but now her son or daughter wants to do, soccer, basketball, baseball. These things are incredibly expensive. And there, a lot of times isn't a lot of extra money. And to come up with $700 is like, forget it. You can't do it. So we come in and plug that hole. Year to year, we usually send about 100 kids through different programs, and we pay those programs directly. So that's a third of our budget we dedicate. We also do backpacks in the fall. So this year, my board, sometimes they just want to lock me in a closet because every year I say, guys, we could do so much more. So this year we're doing 5,000 backpacks, which is our biggest yet. And what we do is we work with local law enforcement, first responders, fire, police, and also school districts to distribute the bags. So we reach out to our communities, find out who needs what, when, and where, and then we fundraise, we purchase the bags, we stuff the bags, and then we give them to them and we distribute. So that's coming up in August. And then the last part of what we did is in 2020, launched Sparkle Biz, which are microloans for single moms that want to start or grow their businesses. So where that came from was I wanted to take my Sparkle mind, my business mind, and find a way to combine the two. And so loans kind of made sense. Grants were even better. But what we really dove into once we started to build this program out was when you just give somebody money, they don't have any vested interest in the money, right? So if they lose or it doesn't work out, well, they're like, it's fine. But if they had to pay it back, then there was a little skin in the game. So along with our program of funds came mentorship. So our loans are like $5,000 to $15,000. And we know it works because we've did it. We've had our first one go out and paid it back in full. And now we're ready to do it again. But essentially, we look for women in the community that are either starting a business or have an existing business, need capital, maybe can't get their hands on money in the traditional fashion, whether they were divorced, they don't have credit, or they just don't know what to do. And they don't need 100,000, they need 10,000. And then they need some mentorship. So where they're weak, we can plug the holes with accounting personalities and insurance and marketing, et cetera, and help them really kind of get on the right path. And it's been a really fun program to bring in other like-minded business women, that are, accelerating in these different fields that would love to give back, but don't know how, but can give an hour of their time to one of our recipients. So that's what we've been doing. And it's been super fun. It's probably my most favorite part of what we're doing.
So fabulous. How do you select people? Or is it when you give them to the police or the firemen, are they the ones that select the kids of families that get those, and then coming to the loans for women? What's the selection process?
Well, it's interesting because it's something we've really kind of, made a roadmap for year after year. The Christmas drive is very specific. So we have an intake form that will launch October 1 where people have to nominate a single mom. And we do that because we used to just have anybody could nominate themselves. And we were finding that a lot of the times, we're not here to fulfill someone that's kind of in that bracket of they are constantly needing services, right? Because our gig is we're here to plug a hole and we're here to do it one time. So if you're in our database, you can't come back for more. It's a one-time sitch because we really want to be that trampoline to get you going, not, the place where you're continually turning. So for that, the holiday gift drive, when someone else is going to nominate and stand up on your behalf, there's a little bit more meat on the bone, if you say, you're right. And so that's really, last year we had over 150 applicants and we selected 70 families. So it's really hard to find the ones that really we think would be most, impacted. With enrichment, it's the same thing. Like you have to apply. We do a little bit of research. We're not checking your credit or your tax returns. We're more kind of going on like, tell us the story and tell us why this is important to your child. And then here we can fix. And we pay those different groups directly, because I always want to make sure the money goes where it's supposed to go. So we won't pay mom, we'll pay soccer, football, music class direct. With the microloans, it's actually kind of fun. So we have an application process where they can send us a video, tell us what their deal is, tell us why they need the money. And then if they go to the second round, we ask them to kind of fill out a deck. So we provide the template, and then they got to fill in the blanks. And then if they go to the third round, it's kind of like a Shark Tank situation where they get to come and actually pitch to a panel of like 30 women. And then we as a group, when they're done, decide, okay, we want to move forward with this one, or we don't, want to move forward here. And here's why. And that's kind of been the way we call it the Sparkle Tank. And we're getting ready to do it in the next couple of weeks. And so it's really fun, because it allows people to really showcase who they are. And we're looking for the woman who just needs that little nudge to cross the finish line. Does she have what it takes to take her business to the next level that she wants to get to? And, how can we help her do that?
So is this only in the Northern California area that you work with these organizations and these women, et cetera?
We're all over California. So our main hub is in the Bay Area. So we serve out of this location. We're Sonoma County all the way to San Jose. We then have Sacramento. And then we also have Los Angeles. So those are our 3 focus points right now. And I didn't answer your question too about the police officers in the school districts. So we work with them because they know where the families are that need us, or the areas that need a little bit more. And the backpacks are cool. So they're a 19-inch bag that's stuffed with 36 school supplies. So we stuff them, and then they can go distribute them, which is really fun. It's good for everybody.
Giving back to the community, which is absolutely wonderful. You also done a lot of other things. You've written a self-published book. Tell us about that. And you have a podcast, Inspired Her.
Yes, those were my COVID babies. I turned 40 in 20, and I decided, okay, I always wanted to write a book. And actually, the book idea started off with writing a book about how to start a nonprofit. So I started writing, and I was like, God, this is so boring. This is not what I want it to be. Because when I did decide that I wanted to do the nonprofit, there wasn't really a lot of good resources. And the stuff that's out there is really clunky and very academic and not very practical and here's what you need to do. So I think there will be that, but that's later on for me. So I started, it was Women's Month 2020, and we're all sitting at home, licking our wounds because we're locked up. And I started to really post about inspirational women in my life. And so I posted a picture, and I tell a little story about these women. And this was my mother, my grandmother, women in my life that really helped me become this woman at 40 that I am. And about mid-month, I go, God, this could be the book. So I reached out to this group and kind of pitched my idea, and they were like, this is great, let's do it. And so I gave them all the pictures of the women, and I had an artist hand draw them. And then I wrote the little snips. And of course, the editor helped me do it. And about, almost 12 months later, published a book. And it was like these wonderful love letters to these women that I'm so grateful for, that have really made me the gal I am today.
And the podcast, I have so many questions. I'm just trying to not let them pour out of my mouth.
Hit me, girl, hit me. So yeah, the podcast was, again, my girlfriend and I my friend Stacy, we've been friends for 20 years, and we have such an amazing circle of incredible women in our lives. And so we thought, because everyone's listening to podcasts, we're like, hey, you know what? Let's tell their stories, because women every day are doing amazing, incredible things, and no one's talking about them. Unless you have a huge platform, or you've gone through some big trauma, or you have a lot of money, your stories don't get told, and you're doing amazing things. So we started off with our friends, and it kind of just kept going and going. Now we're in our 3rd season. We've interviewed over 150 women. And we've got quite a little following, and it's a total passion project. We don't edit. We don't know how. We laugh, we swear, we cry, we talk about the things that nobody, it gets uncomfortable. And it's really just a safe place for us to kind of just celebrate women. And it's been really fun, and we will keep doing it as long as people keep listening.
I love that. I started a podcast, obviously, a year and a half ago. Mine's a lot more structured, as you see. And it was because there are so many people that are creating change in their corner of the world, doing amazing things, like yourself, like everyone I have spoken to. And I've been such a big voice and proponent of creating change and what it means and how one can find passion and purpose in it. And, you know, when we listened to you, as I started from the beginning, it was, you're so successful in the insurance world that you could have let it stop there and could have sat back on your laurels and enjoyed the benefits of what it produced. Yet here you are thinking, well, that's great and I love it. However, I really want to find something that brings me a passion and purpose. And you kind of looked around and looked at your upbringing, your grandmother, your mother, and looked again, opening your lens and seeing, where can I help create change?
Well, and purpose, I think, is such a driver, and it's a huge driver for me. And I think getting uncomfortable, doing hard things, doing things that are different, putting yourself out there. I mean, these are all things I think that make us who we are. And I think the greatest part about what we're doing is somebody had called it a movement the other day. And I was like, gosh, I never really thought about it that way, but it is. I mean, it's this incredible feeling to not only do good for others, but to be able to provide a place for other people to do good. And it's very emotional for me because, you know, I'll look around at Christmas time and we'll have 350 people wrapping gifts, and it's moms and it's dads and it's kids, and it's like everybody's there, not for them. They're there to help someone else, and to create space for that to happen is incredible. And it's like, it gives me the chills even talking about it, because Sparkle is not about just the person receiving. It's also about the person doing, because all of us have it in us. Many of us just don't know how. And so I'm excited and happy to shepherd the movement of like, I'll show you how, let's go.
That's it. Everyone can do something to create change. Small. It doesn't have to be magnanimous like what you're doing, but something small that the earth moves just a speck when something wonderful happens.
Well, I always say too, it's like, find your why, whether it's children or education or animals or plants or Mother Earth, whatever it is that tickles your fancy, like get into it and do something to make it better. Because I think the reward is so much bigger than you could ever imagine, you know, to go build a house, you know, in another country, or to go pick up trash on the beach. I mean, just those little things that, you know, you might not have a lot of money to get involved, but your time and your effort, it's so awesome. And it feels so good to do good.
What would you like your legacy to be?
Just living a life of purpose. I say it all the time. And I've got 2 young girls. We didn't talk about those little monkeys. I've got a 10 and a 12-year-old who they only know this life because, I mean, they're my strongest assistants. You know, at certain times of year, we turn into a full-blown warehouse around here. And, you know, to see them know that there's so many different ways that people survive and occupy this earth. And it's not always pleasant, but it is so rewarding to be able to help other people and to do the work and to be out there and make change, I think is what I want my legacy to show them, you know, like you can do it. And yeah, it's hard and it's a lot of work, but man, it feels so good at the end of the day.
And I really want to emphasize, and I love that you've opened the door for your daughters to see that life isn't always where you live and how you live, that there are people that aren't as fortunate. Today's world, and I know I'm speaking out of turn, but if more kids understood, this is my perspective, no one else's, that there's so much more than the luxuries that you might have, that there are others that aren't as fortunate.
It's crazy how I live in Marin County. It's a very affluent community here in the Bay Area. And there's, you know, all of us at an executive director level, because we see a lot, there's an underbelly for sure. But there's also women right around the corner next door to you that you don't even know. They can put food on the table and pay their bills, but there is literally no extra money. And a lot of families across America live in that same boat. And so when you're, wrapping a pair of socks or wrapping, makeup or buying a bicycle for a kid, some of these kids would be like, that's not a Christmas present, or, a toothbrush is, whatever it is. But you know what? For somebody else, it may be everything and just that one thing that they need. And so to have the kids see it and go, that's the other thing too. When I started, it was very important to me to see where the money went. So when I started researching charities and realizing you donate $100, a lot of times it doesn't go to 100% of what you think it is. So with everything Sparkle stands for, it's soup to nuts, right? You donate $100 will 100% go out, and you can see the process. So we find the families, we get to know the families, we get their targeted wish list down to the size and color of, the sheets for their bed and the socks and the shoes that their kids want. We'll go buy it, and then we will go wrap it, and we will go deliver it. So you could be a part of that whole process as someone that even went and bought that gift and handed it off to that mom. And I think that part of what we do for these younger kids, my daughters are, now old enough to get it. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Right. And on some level they do.
Oh, 100% mine do for sure. But it's always neat. There's always those moms that come up to me every year and they're like, thank you. Thank you for showcasing that this is important for them to see.
So a lot of the things you do is supporting communities, which is wonderful and interesting. And, by having all of this, you support communities, you support people, you support the area. And if there's one thing that you could add that our listeners might hear as a takeaway, what might that be?
Everybody could use a hand, right? There's so many great organizations out there, and we all run on volunteers. It's all based off volunteer support. So I think, in any area that you're in, going back to what I said, just finding your purpose and finding your why and plugging in. And, a lot of people will say, oh, I like to, start my own nonprofit or do these things. Well, a lot of times there's a whole bunch of stuff that people don't know that goes into doing what we're doing. Why do you have to reinvent the wheel? Go find something that speaks to you and dive in and get to know how you can be of service to the organizations. And if that's not the right one, go find another one.
And, people would say, oh, I'm so busy. I've got a full schedule. I'm a mom, a dad. I've got kids and I work. Where would I find the time?
You know what my answer is? You will always make time for the things that are important. And that is the answer. People always say, well, how do you, do this? I will always make time for the things that are important to me. So if you want to allocate an hour a month to service or, volunteering here or doing that or donating money or whatever it is, you will make time. Trust me. If it's important, you will make time.
And one of the expressions or quotes we use in coaching is, we are all in the service to humanity. I'm just going to say to my listeners, if anyone knows somebody in the Bay Area of California, please reach out to Samantha. And how can they reach out to you? Your email, your website?
Well, I made it really easy. I just figured I'd have a home base, and it's my name, SamanthaTradelius.com. There you can find information on the book, the podcast, Sparkle, me, any of the above. You can reach me there. Yeah, it's very easy. I have a quote on my desk, which I think you'll appreciate. It's from Shirley Grisham, and it is, you ready for this? Service is the rent that we pay for room on this earth.
I've heard that. I love that.
It's on my desk, and a girlfriend gave it to me, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And it's the truth. It really is.
Service is the rent we pay for being on this earth. On that note, Samantha, this has been incredible. It's so informative and so insightful. And what you do, there are just no words for how you are creating change in your corner of the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. So much fun.
Thank you for joining the conversation. For related content on extraordinary work, visit my website, trycoaching.com. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another conversation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and be sure to subscribe to future podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Always remember, when you work with passion and purpose, your work can become extraordinary. You'll definitely want to listen as my next guest, Kelly Siegel, CEO of National Technology Management and author of his best-selling book and memoir, Harder Than Life, takes us on his personal journey from poverty, addiction, and violence to creating the exceptional life he has today, including converting people to sobriety and using monies from his book to make major donations to several impactful charities.